All right. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad that you could join us tonight. Tonight, I have my mom on, and we are going to talk about the holidays and recovery and being the family member of somebody who's an addict or somebody who is in recovery. So, if you are watching live, drop your name, say hello in the comments so that we can say hello to you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Mom.
You know what? I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So I did a post before we did this a couple of days ago asking people what they would like for us to talk about, right? And one person had a question for you. Let me see if I can actually pull up the exact questions so that I ask it right. It was something to the nature of, here we go. Okay. The question is, hey, Matthew, Ontario, Canada, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. Let's see. So the question is, okay, here we go. Talk about a mom treading the fine line between helping your addicted adult and enabling. Do you ever feel you needed to tell Sonia that there would be no contact until she was seriously in recovery? And as a mom, do you feel it's okay to do that?
Okay, yes, I do feel it's absolutely okay to do that. And I think I said that to you on several different occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the situation, when it came to using around me or the kids, it would just, it was not allowed. So yeah, I had to tell you, you couldn't be around. Did I like it? No. It just, it's a horrible feeling to know that your kid is out there using. You don't know whether they're at someone's house that could hurt them, what they're doing to get the drugs, where they're, and you imagine the worst. That's, what's going through your head the whole time is the worst situation. And, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it is. But yes,
Right.
it's absolutely okay to tell them that they have to go. And I think I drove you to detox a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
dropped you off. You might have walked away, but
Well,
I
I
did.
stayed for a day or two until I figured out I was there voluntarily.
And then what would happen is you would call me and say, hey, I need a ride from here to there, or whatever. And I remember you called me once from, I think it was from the Walmart parking or Walgreens parking lot on Myrtle and 41. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, because I know that was a really bad day for you. Like somebody had beat you up or something. So of
Yeah.
course, I mean, even though you've told them they can't be around you anymore, you're going to go and get them out of that situation. Or at least, that was my instinctual mother thing to do. But, I didn't want to bring you home. We had to find somewhere for you to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. And on top of finding somewhere for me to go, that's April. Hey, April, she's the one that actually asked the question.
Oh, hi, April.
Hey, Sherry. Hey, Charlie. So, just to add to what you were just saying, I mean, the hard part about that, right, is that even though you had to find somewhere for me to go, it's not like I was like ready to go to rehab or ready to go to detox. I mean, I just couldn't be there, but I wasn't ready to get help yet.
And you would have liked to have come back to my house, and hang out for a bit, but I just couldn't allow it. I think at that time you weren't coming back to the house. But there were
Yeah.
many times that I brought you back, and in my mind, okay, I'm going to feed her, make sure she has a good meal, let her take a bath, maybe get a little bit of sleep, and then, she has to go. But then you'd be there a night, and a night would turn to 4 nights, and then we'd have something that would happen, and, off you go again. So, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think it's absolutely okay to that's the only way they find their desperation is to be out there without you making everything okay. Because when she's with me, I'm feeding her, I'm bathing her, I'm taking care of her, I'm buying her cigarettes, I'm buying her crazy Twizzler
Sweet tart
string,
ropes.
sweet tart ropes, whatever they were, in abundance.
Yeah.
I've never seen someone that went shopping so much at a 7-Eleven. Like I want to go to the grocery store and buy food, and everything you bought was from 7-Eleven. Twice the price.
I think that's why I
Oh.
had so many dental problems from them damn sweet tart ropes. Yeah. And so April brings up a good point, right? Because you did let me stay a couple times, but by that time, so that what had happened is that I had gotten into some trouble with some people. I had a bad experience with somebody out there. And then you came and picked me up. But by that point in time, I was already really in a bad place. And I think you had set the boundary that I couldn't stay there anymore.
Right.
But April brings up a good point, right? Because yes, I like to have my belongings stay at the house and not at the pawn shop.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
just a constant battle, not, we have other people in the family that have addiction. My brother, I know he wouldn't mind me mentioning it, but there was, whenever they come around, your instinct is to just hide everything. I had to make sure my purse was not just in my bedroom, but hidden in a place that I thought maybe she might not find it, because if she wants something, she's gonna, and her and Steve would distract me. Like they'd go in with a plan
Mhm.
for one to distract me in one room so the other one can go and do something. So yeah, I didn't invite him over much, to be honest with you.
Yeah. That's true. We did used to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And
we
the
got
locks
another
don't matter.
person
My
from
son-in-law broke into a safe once. I mean, the locks do not matter. If they want it, they're going to get it. If they're so
which time was that?
the the safe, that safe that you all brought over.
I don't remember. We've broken into a couple of those. Oh boy. We brought one over there.
Yeah, it's set in
Yeah.
my driveway. Bob, remember it set up.
Oh, yes. I do remember that actually.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, we have another person from Canada. Michael is on from Atlantic, Canada, in recovery since 3/9/13. Congratulations,
That's
Michael. I'm so
awesome.
glad you're here. Awesome. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting in the room right now, and you were talking about the windows and the screens removed. I mean, this screen right here still has a rip from where they've broken in and tried to get in. I mean, yeah, I know. I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. I mean, I put up cameras. I had 3
Yeah.
cameras outside, cameras all over the house inside. So
Yep.
yeah, I know. I get it.
Yep. And I knew that there were cameras, and most of the time I just didn't even care.
Nope.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah, because I think the thing is, like, I just, when you're in your addiction, all you can think about is just getting that next one, and you think to yourself, "Oh, I'll deal with that afterwards. Let me just go use, and then I can deal with the wave of consequences that come behind it." So it
Right.
wasn't, because I didn't care. It was just because I just had to keep going.
Right. I actually used my car. I would put my purse in the car and lock it, and then I
Hmm.
keep keys on my body. That was really the only way I could, kind of protect anything that I wanted you not to get a hold of, like credit cards.
Yep. Or bowls of change with the quarters. Remember?
Oh gosh, yes. Because
Yep.
way back when I had a paper route for extra money. So when we say change, like I had a lot of money in quarters. I mean, I did the machines where you get papers out of the boxes, and
Mhm.
$1.25 a paper. I collect a couple of $100 worth of quarters every week. Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah, what reminded me is I actually did get in there one time and got to them, and I was on camera, remember?
Yes.
Yep, I remember that. Okay. So, let's talk about the holidays a little bit, right? Because the holidays can tend to be a really hard time for people in their addiction and people in recovery. I think just for people in general, right? The holidays can be a really hard time for people. Well, let's back up. April says that she's the type that would call the police on them where mommy won't. So, did you ever call? I don't think you ever called the police on me, did you, mom?
Well, every time my credit cards were gone, I did. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know how it is, there, but when my credit card came up missing, I would report it gone. If there were any charges, they would reverse it. And so then I called the sheriff's office and I reported it because I wanted you in trouble. I wanted you to get locked up. I didn't care. And but but as long as I reversed the charges, they couldn't press charges. They had to wait for the credit card company because I didn't
Oh.
have a crime against me. The money wasn't gone from me. So it was the credit card companies that had to go after you. So
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why I say.
That's why I never went to jail for that, because I surely thought it was coming quite a few times.
But you hit me pretty hard usually if you went after the credit card. It was usually $500-$600 at a time. So
Yep. Use it till it doesn't work anymore was the plan.
I figured it out and made the phone call to shut it down. So
yeah, you used to be able to freeze them.
yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
You know your
so
passwords either because they can unfreeze them.
yeah, that's true. So I'll just share with you, April. I hope you don't mind me sharing this. April has a nephew, and he's been going through, he actually just went to treatment a few days ago, but he left there. So April's, she's been working on helping him with his mother, who's her sister. And, so she just was hoping that we could kind of talk about that a little bit, because they actually live really close by us. They're about an hour away from here. He was at the Salvation Army in St. Petersburg. So that's actually where I went to rehab at. And, but it was a journey before I was finally able to get ready and to stay. So maybe you could talk about what those boundaries were like. What boundaries did you set for me that helped me reach my desperation?
Well, I mean, near the end, there was just really, you couldn't come around at all. Like I couldn't feed you. I couldn't do any of those things because again, it was, I was somewhat making it easy for you, when you were hungry. I mean, here's the thing. In this city, Salvation Army will feed you. They'll put you up in a house. They'll, put clothes on your back. They'll set you up in a housing program, but you gotta want it. You know what I mean? And then when you do, I think you have to like go sweep the street or something the next day to earn it or something. I mean, they actually make you earn it too. So, it was still making it easy for you to stay at my house. I was still enabling you just by feeding you and putting clothes on your back and doing those things. And, to be a mom, I mean, it's really tough. It's easy to see how somebody should do it when you're standing on the outside of it. But when it's your kid, I mean, your gut, your natural instinct is to protect them. And you think you're protecting them by making sure that they eat or that they have a roof over their head. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, no matter how old they are. But, when it comes to drugs, it doesn't help them to get out of that situation they're in. They need to find that desperation. But at the same time, this is one thing that I think people miss is that, yes, they need to find that desperation. You need to not help them, but they need to know they're loved.
Yeah.
So they need to know that you want them to get help and that you don't think that they're ratty and horrible or whatever, right? They need to know that. Yeah. Because they already feel that way anyways.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I agree with that. What you said in the beginning, I was going to say this earlier, when you would give me a place to stay and feed me, let me take a shower and get some rest, buy me cigarettes, that just enabled me to whatever hustle I could come up with to use it all on drugs. Instead of buying my cigarettes or buying my food, I could just use everything I had on drugs and sometimes locate an opportunity to take advantage of you by doing those things for me if I found something in the house that I could sell for drugs, so. But I like what you just said a minute ago, because I do agree that you have to put up those boundaries. And, there's a timeline on this, right? Because maybe in the beginning, you didn't have to quite put up as many boundaries as you did towards the end. But I got to a point where it was really bad. And the only thing that I did was do drugs, get drugs, and, participate or associate with people that were doing drugs. So it got to a point where it was really dangerous for me to be around you or around my kids. And you had to look out for my kids at that point in time. But I do love what you said a minute ago, because people that are in their addiction, they already feel like they're a piece of crap. They don't
Mhm.
really need anybody to tell them that, because that's why they keep using, because they know they're a piece of crap. They use because they feel like a piece of crap. Because they use, they're more of a piece of crap. And it's just this like cycle that they're on, where they're just using and hating themselves, and they just continue to fall further and further down into the rabbit hole. So, I know it can be frustrating, right, Mom? I'm sure it's
Oh
frustrating when you
yeah.
see people, but
Yeah.
at the same time, we have to be careful of the way that we talk to people too.
I mean, you knew that all you had to do was pick up the phone, and I would drive you to any detox, to whatever it was that, to give you a hand up, but
Mm-hmm.
not a hand out. There's a huge difference. And that's all the time, no matter who it is. You always, when someone's asking for something, I stop and think, am I giving them a hand up, or am I giving them a hand out? Because nobody needs a hand out. That's something you give at Christmas. That's all.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't mind giving a hand up at all. So
Yeah. Hey, Alexandria. She says, before I had kids, I was the same way. April
mhm.
says, thank you. He does know that I love him, and so does his. He hated himself and is embarrassed. And, she said something else. She said, he's really sweet until I say no and not giving you money. So let's
Oh
talk about that for a minute. The
yeah,
difference in the person and the person that's using drugs.
yeah. And all the drugs have a little bit different of an ugly face too. So I'm not sure what he's using, but like, and Sonia can clarify what they are, but I know, like on Xanax or whatever, what is that? Benzos or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those were some of the, worst, nasty, ugly, horrible things. You say no, and you're just going to get it. Like, it's just, it's hard to live through some of those, kind of situations. Whereas, with the heroin, I think when I say no, you're like, oh, I got to go figure something else out. Or you're like, it's not so much of a fight or a
Yeah.
carrying on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they all have different spirits connected to them now. Like, it's a spiritual warfare, right? Because every drug, like you said, all has a different demeanor, where people act different no matter what they're on. So I think you're right. Like, when I was on Xanax, I would black out. I didn't remember
Right.
anything that I did the next day, but I was a completely horribly mean, angry, abusive person when I was on
Mhm.
Xanax. And you're right. When I was on heroin, I just had to get another one, but I didn't necessarily want to hurt you to get it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And as far as, saying no, you know what? So what? They're mad. Bye.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to say no. It is okay to say no. And the best thing you can do is just turn your back to the anger. You don't want to engage it. You cannot argue with a drunk, a drug addict. It doesn't matter. You can't argue with them when they're, you can't argue with someone when they want a cigarette. I've seen people that, haven't had a cigarette in several hours, and just about
Yep.
chew your hand off for one. So, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, it's okay to say no. Then you need to turn your back and just ignore, walk away, not ignore, walk away from the backlash. No one's allowed to
Mhm.
treat you that way. Not
Yep.
even a daughter or child, or, maybe your mama, unless she's,
Yeah, I think that that's what makes it hard, though, right? And I'm just speaking from observation, but I feel like it's hard not to personalize that when
right.
somebody's being like that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to separate. I mean, if that person was on drugs, would they act that way to you? Would they be
Right.
that mean if you said no? And well, they probably wouldn't have asked in the first place. But you have to remember, it's the drug addict that is coming to you for what it is that they want. And when they don't get the want, the drug addict is responding, not the person, who you love and adore.
Right.
It's the addict in the person.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm
And that
glad that you said that.
doesn't make it okay, but just understanding that difference makes a difference.
Hmm. Yeah, I always say that to people because I talk to a lot of times. I talk to parents or loved ones who are in their have a family member, son or daughter or whatever in their addiction. And I always tell them to try to separate the two. I mean, you have your loved one and then you have the addiction. And when they're acting like that and saying those things, you're speaking to they're speaking as the addiction, not as the person that you love. And if you can try to separate those things, I feel like it will make it easier to understand. I mean, just since being in recovery, I've dealt with a lot of people that go back out and they're very mean, and because they don't want to get clean, and people just want you to get the hell out of their way if they're using and they don't want you to, tell them about themselves or try to help them or whatever that may be. They don't want to hear it. And sometimes they can be really mean. And so I've had to learn to do that as well because, in my recovery, I've lost friends along the way. And in the beginning, I wanted to save them and try to talk to them and tell them, don't you know how amazing this life is? Just come back. And that doesn't work because until
They
they're
don't wanna hear it.
ready,
Yeah,
right? Exactly.
they don't want to hear it. And
Yeah.
it's really if you're the one putting out all that energy, to try and want them to be sober, then you're the one that's setting out all that energy, and it's hurting you. It's hurting yourself. And they don't want to hear it. They've shut you out. They have one thing in mind. They don't want to know about anything else.
That's
Once you
right.
start talking about recovery or detox or whatever, that's how you get them to go to the door.
Yep.
That's how you get them to turn around and walk away. Let's go to detox.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So Alexandra says she's so thankful she's been sober, but it put her into a situation by staying with her kid's dad while he wasn't sober. He
Mm.
hurt our daughter. She's great now, but I still have a pending case. So prayers, please. Yes,
Yes.
definitely sending prayers for you. And maybe that's something else we can talk about for a minute because there came a point in time, right? I had custody of my kids taken away. And that's another reason why you wouldn't let me come to the house, because if I was at the house using drugs, I was putting the kids in danger. And there came a point in time where that was not allowed. Do you remember that?
Yeah. And I mean, that's like a no-brainer to me. If that puts the kids in danger. If someone's using drugs, they should not have the kids around them, period. I mean, I don't know why that would even be a question. But there's parts of that go with it too. Like we were just talking about the anger. I mean, the kids don't need to be around that. When someone's using, they're not in their right mind. I mean, I felt like I was set to protect those children. That was my job. And that's why they were with me, was to protect them. So if I allowed them to hear, or to be around some of this really negative stuff, especially near the end, then, it was hurting them. It broke their hearts, when they saw different things. So it's okay to keep them away from that. Not
Right.
just the drugs, but from the whole attitude, the whole scene.
Yeah. Yeah. April
I'm
says that
busy.
she says she's told him that she feels like she's talking to a chemical, not him. And he's an opiate. He does opiates. So that makes sense. I mean, for somebody who does opiates, they physically get sick when they don't have them. So it's really hard to get off of. I feel like, going away is the best course of action, like whether that be the hospital or detox or treatment, because when you do opiates, your body gets so sick without them.
Yeah.
Okay. So Adam says, how do you show the person that you love that you are no longer that person of addiction? His wife left him. So how do you think that I showed you? What did you see that made you? I mean, I know I'm your daughter, so
Yeah.
it's probably a little bit
Well, and I
easier,
can
but what
relate
do
to
you
the question
think?
a little bit. I mean, here's the thing, like, if you've been through it a lot and you've had your hopes just beat up time and time and time and time again, wanting that person to be sober so badly. So when they do get sober, it just takes a minute for you to believe the other shoe's not going to drop. I mean, I'd like to say I just believed it the day she got sober, but the truth is I was skeptical,
Right.
And the way that she showed me, I'll just tell you what I saw, and to best relay it is, it was by the people she chose to be around.
Mhm.
I could visually see, not just by her actions, but by the people, places, things, what she was doing, that day-to-day interaction life. She was no longer with any of those people that took her down that wrong road. And there's not a fine line there. It's black and white. It is
Right.
truly black and white. So I would say that, and when I saw that, then I started to believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. I mean, I had to leave, and that was hard for me, right? When I was in treatment, I knew that if I was going to stay clean, that I had to leave all of my friends from the past behind. And, when I was in treatment, they would tell me, those aren't your friends. If they did drugs with you, they weren't your friends. But the truth is that, I care deeply about some of the people that I was in my addiction with, but I knew that if I was going to stay clean, that they couldn't come with me. And the only chance that they ever had of coming with me was if I went and got clean myself. And then maybe they would be inspired enough, or God would work in their life enough where they would eventually get clean. But I knew I couldn't hang out with them anymore. I had to leave them behind. And not only did I have to leave them behind, but I had to connect with new friends that were already clean so that they could show me how to be clean, because I didn't know how to be clean. I mean, when you put the drugs down, that doesn't mean that your whole life is going to change
No.
right away. The
Mhm.
drugs are a symptom of the problem. So once the drugs go away, then you have to learn how to change everything else and confront all that stuff that you've been running from. So I'm glad you said that, Mom. That's so true.
And just
Changing
to go back
people.
on that too, what you're saying, like, I've always said, like, parents, when you're out using, we just keep thinking, oh, I want my kid back. I want my kid back, right? We want you back to the way that, because you and I were best friends, prior to you. I mean, we did everything together. And not that we wouldn't now, but when you got clean and sober, you were a different person, right? I mean, you had
Right.
completely changed. You had been through a lot of this trauma and things and challenges you had to go through. I mean, you were a different person. So when he goes back to his wife, I would imagine that they have to learn, a different way with each other, just like you and I had to.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter whether it's spouse or children or whatever. The person that you love, when they get clean and sober, is going to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, you described it one time as somebody who's gone away to war and comes
Right.
back, because I like that description. I mean, it's not that we've been to war, but in our own sense, we have been to a war that, I mean,
Went
of
to
course
war
we
with drugs.
created, but yeah, and we
Mm-hmm.
do come back very different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Crystal is on tonight. Crystal's always on with us. I love when she comes on here. Hey, Crystal, she says she'd like to go live sometime. That would be great. Just let me know when. All right. And back to the comment from before, Alexandra, we were talking about her and her husband. She said she had to sign her parental rights away to her kid, to her parents. She's with them all now and has been for a year now. She didn't know he was using, but he ended up breaking her leg while I was out with her son. Oh my gosh. Since she didn't have answers, she was charged as well. She's been out since last October and home with her children. She has court December the 12th, and I'm praying that the DA sees now that I'm thriving without him. Oh, I'm so proud of you for walking away from that and getting clean and getting your life together. I'm so proud of you for that.
He needs to go his own journey
Yeah.
and learn how not to, treat people that way. And it needs not to be you.
Yeah. So April says that when you do come back that you have PTSD. So let's talk about that for a minute, Mom. I mean, yeah, I have some PTSD, but you probably have some PTSD
Oh, I have a
too.
ton of people. I mean, honestly, I have just always been very good at like compartmentalizing everything. Like some of the bad stuff, I just put out of my mind. I mean, I just try not to think about it. It's just too hard on your body to just, focus on those things. And things happen and things come up, and you're like, oh my goodness, yes, I remember that. Oh, it was so horrible, So
Yes.
yeah, you really do have some triggers with some PTSD that kind of go through it, especially in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
when, those actions like running to the car and putting my purse up, well, I don't really need to do that now, but boy, I sure did that a lot before, but even bigger things than that. So
Yeah.
parents are, you know, the person that's, you know, with the drug addict also has a lot of PTSD
Yeah.
and a lot of changing.
Yeah. And don't ever go watch 4 Good Days with them ever.
Honestly, I would not suggest watching that movie until you've been clean and sober about 5 years, because it was triggering for me. I mean, I'm like, ugh, oh, ooh, oh my gosh, I remember that. Oh my gosh, yeah, great movie. And if anybody doesn't understand what it's like to be with an addict or to be a parent of an addict, and you don't have any experience of it, tell them to watch that movie, because that's real life. It's, yeah, pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It was well, it was awful, to be honest. Going to that movie together was awful. I mean, it was very triggering for both of us, and
Yeah.
it didn't have a happy ending.
I mean,
So
we'd look like we'd done a small battle at the end of it for sure.
I know.
A little drool coming out of the mouth.
I don't think we said a word like all the way to the car. It was rough.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. Alexandra says thank you. She wants nothing to do with him. She just got her general manager position. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Yes. Oh, she says she's almost to the 5-year mark. She'll be able to watch. I don't know if you should. It
I
was
don't know that
bad.
I'll ever watch it again.
No, certainly not.
Yeah. But for someone from the outside looking in, or if you know people and they don't understand what you're going through, suggest they watch that movie.
Yeah.
Because I think it's even hard for an outsider to watch. I mean, it didn't really get much you know, advertising or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's what made it hard, right? Because it was so realistic. It was tough.
I mean, everything in that movie we had experienced, literally everything.
Yeah, it's called, Tammy says, what movie? It's called 4 Good Days, and I think it's Mila Kunis, right?
Mila Kunis and Glenn Close, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. It's just too realistic. I mean, all of the things that we've been through, they did in that movie. You know, I mean, the girl would steal from her mom. The mom would pick her up from the trap house. I mean, then she would run away right when she was doing a little better. And it was everything that we've been through, you know, and it was hard to watch. And how long had I been in recovery then? Do you remember?
You were freshly out. I think you were living in the halfway house, because we went to like the matinee because you had to be in early or whatever. So when the kids were in school, we went to, let's go have lunch and watch a movie.
Yeah.
Ooh, what a great idea. Food was great. Cine Bistro or whatever. We had good, food was good, but
yeah. Movie, not so much. All right. So, okay. Well, let me just say, Steven says hi. Hey, Steven, I'm so glad to see you on tonight. Okay. She says she missed out on way too much with her kids because of her ex, and she's glad she's done with that life that has anything to do with addiction. And now that you mention it, I actually started that movie. Oh, no. Well, let us know how it goes.
Soon.
Yeah. So, you know, for me, you know, you said you missed out on way too much with your kids, and I felt that way too, because mom started taking care of my kids in 2014. How old were they, Mom?
4 and 6, I think.
Yeah, they were pretty young. And then it would be years before I finally got clean.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely missed a lot, and it was hard. And today, sometimes I wish sometimes that I could get those times back, you know, but I can't. Like, I can just do what I can do with today. So that's the best that I can do today, is make a living amends. Yeah, she says she got halfway through it and got busy with the kids, so it's all good. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to the holidays, right? So the holidays tend to be a really difficult time for people in recovery, people in addiction. You know, I was thinking about it earlier today. I have this memory that pops back in my mind every time that we pass by a Thanksgiving, because so many years ago, when Steve and I first moved to Georgia before we had the boys,
Mm-hmm.
we were smoking crack, right? And we had smoked up all the money, and it was Thanksgiving Day. Remember, I didn't have a phone back then when I first moved away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, cell phones weren't even really a thing then. But so we wound up eating a $1 sausage biscuit from McDonald's that day for Thanksgiving. And I'll never forget it because it was just a horrible, horrible Thanksgiving. I miss my family because we had just moved away. We didn't have like dinner or nothing. We didn't even have money to get dinner because we had smoked it all up. And it was just a really hard year, right? So then I didn't get clean until like almost 10 years later. And when I don't know if you remember this, Mom, but I was at Uncle Carmen's house, right? And I wanted to do a family get
Oh
together
yeah.
for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So I called you, we were going to do it. We got the whole thing, planned out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day I got arrested at a hotel because I had warrants for my arrest, and I wound up spending Thanksgiving in jail. And you guys still did the get together without me.
And did not bail you out.
Nope. But it
Nope.
was horrible. I mean, it was horrible. And the next year, I had gotten out of rehab the day before Thanksgiving, and I wasn't allowed to leave because I was on community control.
Mm-hmm.
And you and the boys came over to the house and spent some time with me for Thanksgiving.
Brought a turkey. Yeah.
Yep.
But
And
if
then,
you think about it, that time that you got arrested and you missed out on this whole thing you planned, I mean, that was just one stepping stone towards you changing your life.
mhm.
Understanding that those choices kept you from the things that you wanted to do.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah. And then, it was fun to come over to your house and do the Thanksgiving turkey. But, for the thing, Thanksgiving is about family, and in family, if you're an addict, there's usually other members of the family that are addicts. So, when you're coming around, now that you're clean and sober and you want to go to, have a Thanksgiving dinner, there's lots of family members from different phases of life that are going through different things that you got to kind of deal with. So, and that's going to be that way, whether it be alcohol or, drugs or, everyone has different feelings about everything. So,
Yeah, I agree. And in ways, it's kind of changes the dynamics forever, right? I mean, just because
right.
I get clean doesn't mean everybody else has to be clean. I mean, other people didn't they're not addicts. So if they want to have a drink, or if they want to smoke pot or whatever they're going to do, I remember a day when I used to love smoking pot on Thanksgiving because then I would eat all kinds of stuff, but today, I just can't do that anymore. So
Right.
I have to find some acceptance to that, because just because I've changed doesn't mean everybody else has to. However, if everybody else wants to get really drunk, I can't stay,
Be around that. Right.
Yeah.
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 Or just focus on the pot or whatever, I mean, so yeah. Well, I just got married and we had champagne, and I was
Yep.
very thankful that my friends brought over what was it? Sparkling apple cider or whatever.
Yes.
So
I didn't know that was, listen, I did not know that was sparkling apple cider, right?
Oh, really?
So she's popping bottles, handing everybody cups, and she hands me one, and I'm like, oh no, I can't have that. Like, what are you doing? But she's like, it's not alcoholic. I'm like, I'm good. But then Aiden, she wound up giving some to the boys too, and we found out it was apple cider, and yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's events like that. I mean, I remember your wedding, and my Celebrate Recovery friends came to your wedding, Marie and Sarah and Jody. And so they were there, and here I am taking over champagne to all the tables. I'm like, oh okay. Go in some water, I'm just like,
Yeah.
so it's, I mean, it's just, it's just a little weird.
Yeah, and definitely at my wedding, we were drinking heavily at my wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess it does, like, it comes full circle, so now on holidays, I go in with a plan, because I
Right.
can't expect other people to not drink because I don't want to drink. So I just go with a plan, and it gets to be too much. I just go home early and I go to bed. And guess what? The next day when I wake up, I'm not regretting my life, and I'm not, I didn't say or do anything that I regret. So it's okay. I've learned to accept it today.
And it's okay. Like if you're uncomfortable in the minute and things are going on in the house, take a walk.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Go outside, take a walk, get away from it for a minute, do what you got to do. You know, it's okay to just step away. And then, if you come back and it's still, uncomfortable for you or whatever, then, you just bow out. I think it's
Hmm.
nothing is worth your sobriety. Nothing
Yeah.
is worth it, even family. And if they don't understand, then they're just going to have to, get over it.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that family does understand. I mean, my family doesn't want me to drink and do drugs. So I mean, they're understanding. I mean, some families probably aren't, but
misery loves company sometimes. So sometimes you have someone in the family that's still in the addiction that doesn't like to see you succeed. I mean, that is a real thing.
yeah.
So,
Okay. So we're going to skip down to a comment here in just a minute. So
okay.
Tori says that she's 136 days sober now, and she gets her kids from Thursdays to Sunday. Congratulations. I'm
That's
so proud
awesome.
of you, Tori. Okay. So let's talk to Marissa for a minute. So Marissa says that sparkling grape juice reminds her of alcohol. And you know what? I get that because when they handed me that, I think it was sparkling apple cider.
Right.
I didn't actually drink it because it did remind me of alcohol. But Steve said he tasted it and he said it tasted like crap anyways.
Yeah, I don't really like to taste champagne anyway. So,
Okay, so we're going to go back up to that comment in a minute. She says she has a termination hearing for her son, but God is so good that they're filing a motion to reintegrate. I'm so
oh,
proud of you for
that's
that.
awesome.
Praise God. Okay. So she says it's so hard to say no. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Mhm.
So the first year that I got out of the Sally, the Sally is the treatment program that I was in. That's what we refer to it as. So the first year that I got out, I was on community control. I think I was allowed to come that first year. I was on community control. And I came over to your house where we were having a family Christmas, which was great, right? I hadn't seen my family in so long and I wanted to come. And all my family was there, but there was some vape pens going around and some
Oh, yeah.
champagnes going around. And it was really hard for me that first year.
Hmm.
That today it's gotten much easier and I found some acceptance, but it was hard that first year. So I only stayed for a little bit that year. And what I did was I went with a plan. Like I said, that's where I got the plan from, was that night. And I called my support network, my sponsor, on the way there. I called my sponsor on the way home. And I stayed long enough to spend time with my family. And then I left, And in the beginning, maybe that's what you have to do until you find some more foundation and comfort and recovery and acceptance that, it does get easier, I think.
Don't you? I mean, I think sometimes people feel like they're missing out on something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's why it's so hard to say no. But you have to like just step back and remember, it is at the moment it may be you're missing out on something, but in the long run you're gaining everything,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, that's true. And that's pretty normal to feel like you're missing out on something. For me, I've thought about that before. Like, well, what would happen if I had a drink? And this is the thing. I've thought this through. I'm going to tell you guys how I played my tape through, right? So I could have a drink and participate and have fun with everybody, but then I would want another drink. And then I would want another drink. And then I would get drunk and then I would throw up and then I would start slurring and then I would want to do dope. That's the progression for me. And I know this because I've done it before, so I know that's where it leads for me. So even though like in the beginning, maybe the first drink, I would be having fun with everybody else, but then I would not want to stop and go to bed when everybody went to bed. I would want to just keep going and keep going, make a fool of myself. And then the next day wake up all this shame and guilt and regret. And it's just not worth it today. I've worked so hard for everything I have. It's just not worth it to just have one drink because it's never just going to be one drink for me.
And they say the holidays is like the Bermuda Triangle with like New Year's, Thanksgiving and Christmas. You know, I mean, you just get caught into that whole party scenario that you have to really have a plan of action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And Marisha, just speaking to you personally, she says she's got 7 months clean on Sunday. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you.
Awesome.
But what you just shared with us a minute ago about how they're changing your termination into a reintegration, that is because you are staying clean one day at a time.
Right.
And those things will keep happening, and miracles are going to keep happening in your life by
That's a
you
party right
continuing.
there.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
a party.
Yeah, definitely. So we have Steven on here. And last time I was on live, I hope you're still on here, Steven, because I'm going to kind of put you on the spot for a minute. He said that the reason that there he is, the reason that he found recovery is because of his mom and because of his church. And I just thought that was really cool because I have my mom on here tonight. And, he said here in a comment, that he put her through hell in his addiction, and same, I did the same. So,
Mm-hmm. Not going to disagree with you.
yeah. Well, Mom, why don't you share with people what you did to get through those really hard times, how you had to surrender me.
Okay, you want me to tell that story?
Yes, I do.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it really, it comes back to my faith is what it really is about. God carried me through all of it. But early on in Sonia's behaviors, before she met Steve, she was with someone else, and I couldn't find her for a couple of days. So I went looking for her. My niece went with me, Michelle, and we found her at a hotel in Nokomis. And when she came to the door, they had like a bucket of 5-day-old fried chicken or something. It was nasty. And she was so skinny. I mean, she was like 85 pounds. It was horrible. So, as a mom, you're just wrenched. You're just wrenched with fear, and you just, it's hard to get through. So I went home that night, and, at least I found out she was alive. She was in a hotel with the jerk. And I couldn't get her. I couldn't drag her out of there. I couldn't, shove her into rehab. I mean, there was nothing I could do. I'm thankful I walked away rather than trying to enable the situation. I didn't go by me. I just wanted to see she was alive. So I went home and I just started praying. And I had read in the Bible that if you lay on the ground face first and pray, you're not distracted and your prayers go to heaven. So I did. I just rolled out of bed and I laid on the floor. And it really felt like a couple of hours went by, because when I woke up, I remember having like this vision, and I was cradling her in my arms, like carrying her through. And I realized that the load was too heavy. So I saw Jesus in front of me, and I just rolled her out of my arms. Sorry. I rolled her out of my arms and I laid her at his feet. And I just surrendered her, because I knew that she could die. I knew that that was a possibility, but nothing I could do would keep her alive. So I had to surrender her will to him. I had to surrender my pain and, what I was going through to him, and just, hope that I knew that he loved her more than I did. So I knew that that was the only way I was going to make it through it. And that's really what carried me the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he had her.
Yeah.
And the truth is we're powerless over it. As a parent, you are powerless. You have no power other than cutting them off. That's the most power you have. So don't be afraid to do that. It really is the most power you have,
mm-hmm.
is to cut them off, even though it hurts. It hurts so bad.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, Mom. I just can't even imagine all of the years. And like you said, that was in the beginning of my addiction. So it was
hundreds of sleepless nights. I can't even tell you. And just the worst imagination you can think of,
mm-hmm.
Where they could be or what they could be doing. Horrible thoughts.
Yep. Yeah, I can't imagine, but I think I love that you shared that. And I'm glad that you shared that because I think that's really important. And I think it's really powerful because when we give God our will, then we let God have the power. When we give
Yeah,
this to him, then he has the power to take control.
for me, it was a real vision of what true surrender is all about. I had to lay you at Jesus' feet.
Yeah.
I had to give him control.
Mhm.
So, you know, it was what a real, surrender is all about.
Yeah. Yeah, so many people have commented on that. Marisha says, "I would if I'd still be using if it weren't for God. Without Him, I can't stay clean." I totally agree. Spirituality is super important. And when I got to jail, I was just talking about this right before we got on here, but I remember I come to a point in my life where I just felt like, how am I ever going to go and meet my Maker one day? I have failed at every single thing that He's ever given me. I've failed my kids. I'm failed my husband. I failed my parents. I'm a horrible person. How could I ever go and face God one day? And, when I got to jail, I knew that I had been rescued because I heard a song called Rescue. And I knew that I hadn't been arrested, but I knew that God had rescued me. And that gave me that little seed of hope to know that I was right where I was supposed to be, and I built on that so much today. But my recovery started with God and grows every single day with God, with more faith in God. And, I just keep leaning into Him and growing in my spiritual walk more and more and more every day that I stay clean. He keeps chipping away at the bad stuff and molding me into the person that He wants me to be.
Yeah, and the better things are, the less we need them, right?
Yeah.
And but he humbles us quickly if we forget
Hmm.
about it. So,
Yeah.
you always have to keep them front and center, always.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's something that I find really important for me. I never want to forget how much I need God in my life, no matter how good my life is. Sometimes I forget to pray because everything is going good, but I try to remember that, and I try to still keep God as the head of my home and the head of my life because I wouldn't have this life if it weren't for him, and because he gave me back everything that I squandered away, right? Like the prodigal son, everything that I squandered away, and he gave it all back to me, welcomed me back with open arms, gave me my family back, restored relationships, my children, everything that I have today. So I give back everything that I have left to him. Yeah. All right.
The other thing I will tell, as far as, the loved ones go, I mean, I can only speak from, my side of it, is that it really is so important to get a group of people. I found a Celebrate Recovery group of people that I'm, still really close to today that help me stay, when I have a hard time, or if I, I'm dealing with something with Sonia, I would, call them, what do I do? Oh, okay. All right. Would help bounce me back because I want to help, and I would call that person, tell them what happened. And they'd say, well, do you really, and so it's good to have those other people around you. And I said this in another meeting that her and I had, but I did this 12-step program. I don't consider myself an addict, but I did the 12-step program a long time ago. And it's really eye-opening. It was really good for me to see that too. It helps you understand of what a lot of what they're going through too.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love that you said that because that is really, we all need support in this life.
Yeah,
Just because somebody's going through addiction, I mean, addiction is a family disease and the addict may be numb, but it is affecting everybody around them.
right.
Yeah.
Codependency, failed marriages. I mean, those are all things that, we that affect us in our lives,
Mhm.
and the choices we make down the road. So,
Yeah. Oh, so Marisha says, wait, Are you talking about your husband? He should have been a cop, but he saved my life multiple times. In the end, he told me if I didn't get clean, I had to leave, and I needed that. Yes, same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew in the end that if I didn't get clean, that I wasn't going to be able to be around my family. And like when I got to jail, I mean, mom wouldn't take my phone calls for like the first 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
because I was mean. But
She
I
wanted me
needed
to
that.
bail her out, send her money, whatever, So
Yeah.
well, she had bail one time that was like $25, and I was like, nope. I got the dog. I got the dog.
Yeah. Left me sitting in there. But that's where my ass needed to be.
That's right.
Oh, all right. Let's just.
I
So
always say, here's one thing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
But this was always one thing that I always had to say to myself when something happened and I wanted to help you, or I wanted to enable you, or I wanted to do whatever. I had to keep saying, Becky, don't get in God's way.
Yes.
This didn't happen by accident. She did this to herself, and God's going to carry her through it. And if I go bail her out, all I did was undo what he put into place. So
Yep. I love that.
mm-hmm.
And that, I guess that's what I was trying to say. When you let go, you give God the power to, that's it right there.
Yeah, we get in
You're not
God's
getting
way.
in his way.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
When we help, when we enable, we're getting in God's way. And if you truly believe that, it's much easier to say no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So we are almost out of time. Let's go through these comments real quick. Okay. Lucille says that she has 1.5 years sober and she's so grateful for her life and she owes it all to God. Oh,
Amen.
I love that. Congratulations. Alyssa says that her mom told her something that she never realized, but we have a stigma, but our parents also do too. Yes. Yeah. And I never realized that my parents lost so many friends themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True.
Well, Mom, remember when you were sharing in something else before that when I first got clean, your friends would like tell you all the time, well, she might not stay clean.
Right. They just always want to look at the negative. And I'm like, do you not think I know this? I'm just happy that today she's in sobriety. Not going to worry about tomorrow. The Bible says not to worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Worry about today.
Yep.
So I was always thankful for today.
Yeah. Alexandra says that one good thing that gets me most is that her ex was so about God and he would quote the Bible and try to live by his words, but the drugs made him act completely the opposite of how he saw himself since he was a believer. And you know what? I believe that people who know the Bible and love the Lord are most oppressed by the devil because he doesn't want them to live up to their potential and their purpose.
He goes after believers harder than he goes after non-believers. Trust me.
Yeah.
If you're a non-believer, he's already got you. So,
Yep. Bernadette says that we all have to go through everything that we went through because God is preparing us for the future. Yes. Yes, I agree. All right. And Marisha says that her son's been through so much and that's a difficult thing to forgive myself for. I understand that. I understand that a lot. And it is hard, the things that we've done and to take responsibility for. But, I just know that our children love us. Like no matter what, they love us. And of all people, our children will forgive us as long as we show up and show them that we're trying to do the right thing. Our children are usually the first to come around.
Every parent carries, guilt, whether you're a drug addict or not. You can always find fault in the way that you're, raise your kids. So it's a proven fact that, even parent or children that were beat as young children still, they love their parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I've been learning about that in these last couple of weeks too. Ted says that he's very thankful for his addiction. Without it, I wouldn't have seen the need for God, Christ, and the Holy Spirit in my life. Amen.
Yep.
So true. All right. April says that she loves you. She's so grateful to me. And thank you for the excellent validation. Thanks, April. I love you. I'm always glad you come on here with us. Okay. And Lucille says, thank you guys for sharing your loving hope thoughts tonight. And we're going to close with this right here. Romans 8:18 is a verse that God put on her heart when she was in jail. That's what gave me the strength to believe, giving up my relationship with my ex, I will receive my children back and be better than ever. We're going to read Romans 8:18. Alexandra, Mom, real quick, why don't you tell them about your group, your Facebook page for family members?
Okay, you're gonna put a link in here or something that people can see it.
Yeah,
It's just it's a group of people. I mean, it says mothers of addicts, but it's for anyone that's, and addicts. We have some people that are in and out of addiction in there too, but it's just a place to come share. We encourage each other. You can be anonymous if you want to, but the group is private. You can't see it just rolling on Facebook. You have to join the group. So, you can just come and share and we can pray for you.
Yep. Yep. And I'll drop the link down when we get off, I'll drop the link to it so you can request to join. Okay. Romans 8:18. Yeah, you can join.
Yes.
She says, yeah. Okay.
Please
You
do.
seen that? Yes. I'm in it. So
we let her be in it.
Yeah. Okay, Romans 8:18 says, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not even worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us."
Amen.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Mom, for doing this with me tonight. We'll probably come back and do it again soon too.
Okay.
So, okay, everybody. I hope you guys have a nice night. Happy holidays, and we will see you again later.
Thank you, everyone.